Committee made in response to the devastating floods in Central Texas. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Celestia Sherman. We'll also talk with State Representative James Talarico, representing District 50, who'll discuss a rally he's hosting here in Houston today.
And I'm Frank Billingsley. Plus, we'll also learn about Urban Paths, a walking wellness company that provides people with guided walking experiences where they can experience the profound benefits of being in nature.
And as Ernie, Frank, and I discuss the top headlines of the day, we want your thoughts, your questions, and of course, your concerns. Give us a call or send us a text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump is calling out members of his own base who are demanding the administration release documents about the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. In a social media post today, Trump accuses his supporters of buying into a hoax about Epstein. The Justice Department and the FBI say the wealthy financier found dead in a federal jail cell in 2019 did not maintain a client list, contrary to what conspiracy theorists and conservative influencers say Attorney General Pam Bondi had previously suggested. Members of Congress are debating legislation that would rescind $9.4 billion. The majority of it was slated for international aid. $1.1 billion was for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which funds PBS and NPR. NPR CEO Catherine Mars says local stations across the U.S. stand to be especially affected.
70% of all funding goes directly to local stations. NPR receives 1% to 2% of national funding on an annual basis. We're talking $3 million, $5 million. It's not much. I think, unfortunately, this is cutting off their constituents' noses to spite NPR's face. It doesn't help anyone to take this funding away.
Mars speaking to CNN this morning. The U.S. government says a deportation flight carrying 5 migrants has landed in the small southern African nation of Eswatini. Michael Kaloki has details.
The Department of Homeland Security, in a post on X, says the 5 men are from Vietnam, Jamaica, Laos, Cuba, and Yemen. It indicates the men have criminal convictions, ranging from child rape to murder. A ruling by the U.S. Supreme Court last month granted the Trump administration's request to lift a judicial order, requiring that those deported to countries where they are not from and have no connections get a, quote, meaningful opportunity to show they could face harm. Soon after, 8 migrants who had been held in U.S. custody in Djibouti were deported to South Sudan. Some rights groups have challenged the Trump administration's deportations, arguing migrants are not given a chance to plead their cases. For NPR News, I'm Michael Kaloki in Nairobi.
An Israeli-backed American Aid Foundation in Gaza says there was a deadly crowd surge today at its food distribution site. More from NPR's Greg Dixon.
The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, or GHF, confirmed in a statement that at least 20 people were killed on Wednesday when a crowd at one of its food sites in Gaza surged. They say most of those deaths were the result of people being trampled. The health ministry in Gaza said tear gas was fired on people seeking food, resulting in the stampede. Since Israel replaced the UN system providing food aid with GHF in May, Gaza health officials say more than 500 people have been killed by Israeli military fire outside the food sites.
That's NPR's Greg Dixon reporting. U.S. stocks are mixed this hour. You're listening to NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. A Palestinian man was reportedly detained for over 9 days at the George Bush International Airport in Houston. News 88.7's Kyle McClinigan says the man was released Monday afternoon.
22-year-old Mohamed Al-Sharoof flew from the West Bank and landed at George Bush Airport on July 5th to reunite with his father, who lives in Fort Bend County. Maria Kari, an attorney and executive director for Project Taha, a legal nonprofit, says U.S. Customs and Border Protection gave no reason for his detention or subsequent release.
Palestinians, even those with lawful status, like Mohammed, are being systematically profiled, they're being detained, they're being humiliated, they're being completely dehumanized by this administration. I can't think of how many other Mohammeds there are in holding cells and waiting rooms around the country right now that we just don't know about.
U.S. Customs and Border Protection says it cannot comment on individual cases, but its website says it tries not to hold people in custody for longer than 72 hours. Al-Sharoof was reunited with his family on Monday evening. I'm Kyle McClinigan, News 88.7.
Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton is launching an investigation of more than 100 potential non-citizens casting ballots in the 2020 and 2022 election cycles. In a statement, Paxton said most of the cases being investigated are in Harris County. Chris Feldman is an election law attorney based in Houston.
This appears to be par for the course, which is an effort on the part of statewide leaders, including Ken Paxton, to undermine the integrity of Harris County elections by creating false doubt about their integrity.
Feldman says raising doubts about the integrity of Harris County elections could give statewide Republican leaders an excuse to intervene in future elections in the majority Democratic county. The FBI has arrested a man from Montgomery County who allegedly made death threats towards Texas Senator John Cornyn. A 71-year-old Andrew Sykes allegedly called Cornyn's office earlier this month, accusing the senator of killing Texans. He then went on to make the threat himself, according to court documents. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive. Progressive Commercial Insurance protects small businesses from retailers to tradespeople. Progressive covers a variety of business needs with a range of coverages. More at progressivecommercial.com.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hump day, hump day.
Happy Wednesday.
Yep.
I do
July
enjoy
16th.
Wednesday.
I do too.
Is it your Thursday?
It is my Thursday. Yeah, you people pay more attention to my vacation schedule than I do.
Well, it's hard. Your vacation schedule is, we should really look at your work schedule because
it's a lot easier to follow. Anyway, I will be off on Friday on vacation again, but don't let that fool you into thinking it won't be a power-packed Hello Houston. You guys will carry us
trust
through
me,
the
we
weekend.
have no problem without you, Ernie.
No problem at all.
We'll do our best.
We'll try.
Anyway, what I'm trying to do better, that you two do better than I do, and I'm trying to do it, is to follow the YouTube channel when we're on the air and watch the comments that come up in there. And if you'd like to contribute and watch our show live, you can do it at youtube.com. Just look for the Houston Public Media channel or go to hellohouston.org and click that big orange banner.
It cracks me up because sometimes I'm able to actually follow it. It depends, what the day is looking like.
You can get a little lost in it.
You can get lost
sort of
in
a
it.
rabbit hole
It
sometimes.
really is. And it just cracks me up how there are so many of our viewers on YouTube that are still shocked that I have not seen Star Wars. But yesterday we had somebody commenting about Back to the Future. I did watch it, just to clarify.
And did you like it?
I loved it.
Okay, there you go. That's all
I do want to
loved
clarify,
it.
though. So when you're watching us on the YouTube channel, because I often see people say, what is Celeste looking at? What is Frank looking down at on their computer? They're checking all the comments and trying to keep us abreast of what's going on.
Yeah, Alex, she just said we're a friendly bunch.
Yeah,
it's a great
but I'm
little
not
community
always
there,
looking
so come
down
join
at that. I'm
No,
also
but
looking
sometimes at notes, and there's a lot
scripts
going on
and
on our
notes, and there
screens.
is a lot going on. I think people don't understand. When you do a 2-hour live show, the communication and the team that we have behind us. Shout out to all of our team that really work hard and make it happen. There's a lot of communication going on. Yeah. Usually it's like
Speaking
Celeste,
of the
rap.
we have a lot going on our show today, and so I'm going to jump over the weather. We want to come back to it, but I want to jump right to your headline.
Don't complain when it floods in your neighborhood.
Yeah. We'll get right back to you. Celeste, take us in with the first story.
Yes, House Speaker Representative Dustin Burrows on Tuesday named 9 state representatives, 6 Republicans and 3 Democrats, who will serve on the Joint Disaster Preparedness and Flooding Committee. This is a committee formed in response to the devastating floods that tore through central Texas over the July 4th weekend. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick named the 9 state senators to the panel on Monday, one of those being Republican Senator Paul Bettencourt, representing Texas District 7. The lieutenant governor and Representative Burrows both stated that their committees will meet jointly to find solutions. Senator Bettencourt joins us now via phone. Senator Bettencourt, welcome to Hello Houston.
Well, thanks, Les, for having me on.
Yes.
That's an important topic.
It is a very important topic and very close to many Texans' hearts. The House and Senate Joint Committee are scheduled to meet. You all are scheduled to meet on July 23rd in Austin and then again in Kerrville on July 31st. Senator Bettencourt, what are the top priorities for the July 23rd meeting in Austin before the committee heads to Kerrville to speak with residents in the area about their concerns?
Well, speaking to Senator Perry, who's the chair, the top priorities are going to be to cover the ground we need to talk to the weather services, certainly the state weather, to make sure we understand exactly what happened on July the 4th. We're going to talk to our emergency manager, Nim Kidd. Lower Colorado River Authority and my office have been working on what is essentially a technology package of old tech, which are sirens, with the combination of gauges and other basically computer equipment that will help automate these type of warnings in the future, and to layer it on top of what everybody's been getting, which is all these alerts on their cell phones. Part of the problem is when you're out in rural Texas, and especially in the hill country, you may not get a cell signal, or you may be overloaded with the fact that you've had a blue alert, an amber alert, a silver alert, a fraud alert, a security alert, whatever. And people have a tendency, Ernie, to turn these phones off at night now.
Yeah.
And actually, Texas is 5 times more likely to have a user actually block those alerts than, let's say, Vermonters are. Okay. So we're going to be looking at all this technology to see what can be done to help. But one of the first things I thought about was I'm old enough to remember civil defense sirens, which were ubiquitous everywhere in the country in the 50s and 60s and 70s. Now we use it in Tornado Alley in Texas, but I think we need to be using it for flash floods as well.
Senator, we hear a lot of stories about funding that came this way that could have been used for this, or proposals for sirens that didn't happen. What's your understanding of the past that led to where we are today, and how much of this do you see is worth exploring, and how much was just chatter online? Well,
when Lieutenant Governor Patrick agreed with me publicly on which I was, we hadn't even a chance to talk, but there's been so many people that look at this problem and they'll come up with sirens as at least one part of the solution. He basically made the comment, along with Speaker Burrows, that we should just pay for it. And I think he had spoken to Governor Abbott as well. So we've got, about 50 rural counties that are up on top of the Edwards Plateau or Central Texas, and they're flash flood prone. And whatever the decisions in the past were that people either bought sirens or didn't, because while Kerr County had not done it, the city of Comfort had bought a siren and actually used it the morning of July the 4th. So we're just going to cut through all of this and come up with, a set amount of money that can be used in these river watersheds that are flash flood prone.
Senator, it's Frank Billingsley here, and we've heard about the sirens. The problem with sirens is that A, they got to work, and B, a human being has to hit the button and has to know when to hit the button, and then, of course, it has to be followed. Now, leaving that alone, I'll appreciate your comment on that, but the Harris County Office of Emergency Office here, with all the bayous that we have, they have gauges on all the bayous, hundreds of them, and you can see the rainfall amounts on those bayous by the minute, and that tells them immediately if flooding is likely or possible or going on as we speak. What about river gauges that can automatically report to someone, hey, the river's gone up 1 foot in 10 minutes, we've got a problem?
And Frank, it's great to hear from you, because I've got a question about water column in the atmosphere for you in a bit.
Yeah.
Okay. The technology package that we're looking at is going to be all inclusive. I helped start the SCADA system with the appraisal district, because that's actually who collects that gauge data for the Office of Emergency Management. It goes through the appraisal district, and having accurate gauge information is critical. So we're going to look at an integrated system that will have cell phone towers that are effectively can use Starlink and also 5G as a backup system. We're going to have gauges. We'll have effectively what's called a SCADA system, which is supervisory control and data acquisition. And we're looking at this to being automatic in response. Now, we're also obviously going to take public testimony on this because different watersheds may have different theories about how to do this. And that's going to come out in the public testimony because, emergency management will have different, views of this. But I did read an engineering report that I thought was a mistake that just said, hey, look, sirens are going to cause panic. And I'm going, that's the wrong answer, because if you integrate it and we do it automatically, you can also now, with modern technology, have voice instructions so people will know if this is a flash flood versus a tornado.
Right.
But that's a great question. And look, Harris County's had this and they've done it well.
Yeah.
Another place that's done it well is when the Lower Colorado River Authority has done this well for watersheds. But you have to have gauges with sirens, with communication towers to pull all this off. So we're looking at a complete integrated package.
Senator, in the introduction, Celeste had stated that you were first all going to meet on July 23rd in Austin. Listening to your response right now, it sounds like you folks are already meeting and making a plan. So I assume this conversation has already begun.
Sure. No, I mean, look, this disaster really ripped at everybody because it's so devastating to think you drop your daughter, granddaughter off at a camp and they don't come back. And that's not even counting the other Texans that just happened to be camping on the Guadalupe that got swept up in the flood, literally, and they lost their life. Look, as a younger man, I was out on that river because of my family loved Canyon Lake, so below a dam and above it. So I know the topographical issues that were got are very unique up there. But I think, Frank, one of the questions I was going to ask, it looks like that tropical storm remnant that went into northern Mexico helped propel the water column to pretty nearly record levels, because that was the second highest water effectively outpouring they've got since 1932. So we're going to be talking about the meteorology that occurred, as well as the what happens with that hill country area, because you've got caliche soils that saturate immediately, and then you've got limestone bedrock that it's permeable, but it's not. But all that water runs off the Canyon Lake as fast as it can.
Well, and you probably know, Senator, that area was under exceptional drought, which on a scale of 1 to 5 is a 5, and has been for a long time. So not only is it limestone, but the ground was hard as a rock, literally. It hadn't had any rain for almost a year in Kerrville. I mean, it was
concrete, Frank. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Now you ask about the column of air, and we call precipitable water, which is a PWatt, precipitable, and then water, PWAT. Those PWatts in that column of air were 2.2 or higher, which is extreme. And I've always had a rule of thumb that works, that if you have a tropical column of air, you can multiply that PWatt by 3. In other words, if you're expecting a couple of inches of rain, you can take it to 6. And that's almost never failed me. It's just the way it is, especially along the Gulf Coast and certainly in the hill country, which you are absolutely right. They basically got hit by a tropical storm.
And Frank, by the way, that explains the National Weather Service's bulletin for 5 to 7 inches the day before.
Correct.
So maybe that rule of thumb is a good rule of thumb. But Ernie, to answer your question, we're going to be looking at all of this because you want to make sure that you don't miss anything. My statement has been in the Senate is what gets measured gets fixed. So we're going to look at everything. And people made decisions in the past that were obviously not the right ones, but we're going to go through them and make sure we know what we want them to do in the future. And we're going to not only have funding for this, a technology package, but obviously there's other concerns when you go through tragedy like this. Whenever you lose 107 people in Kerr County, or 200 probably statewide or more, that's something that we don't want to repeat. And so we're going to be asking the tough questions, because knowing Lieutenant Governor Patrick for 30 years, he'll insist that we ask the tough questions. And I've also known the Speaker Burrows for a good period of time. They'll both want us to get to the bottom of any situation they assign committee members to.
And Senator Bettencourt, just to clarify, who are the committee's chair and vice chair?
Well, on the Senate side, the chair is Senator Perry.
Okay.
The vice chair is Pete Flores, who is actually the area representative, but he was a 27-year first responder game warden, became like a colonel there, I think, or major, and he had actually sent 100 game wardens to when I was on the emergency operation control room with Judge Eccles down at Hurricane Katrina at the Astrodome. So we've got some people that have a lot of horsepower, and these are going to be more of a technical hearing, the first hearing. I'm hoping to have my bill filed by then, and then we'll take input on that. And obviously, when we get to Kerrville, we'll be talking to the local officials and the survivors, and unfortunately, the victims' families too. It's going to be far more emotional meeting on this down in Kerrville. That's my opinion.
And do you think there's any chance? Around here we have evacuation routes. We have signs that tell you where to go. One of the problems with the geography around where you're going to go in the Kerrville area is you could run from the river and run right into more water in the valley. So is there going to be some study of, if you have to evacuate that house along the river or a camp along the river, where to go? How high do I need to be? And how do I get there?
Yeah, Frank, when you look at that, if you go back to the 1987 flood, they made what was a mistake of training like 12 to 13 buses in a row, and they loaded everybody up to get them out of the area. By the time they crossed the river, I think 10 or 11 buses made it, and the last 2 stalled.
Right.
So you have to always recognize the obvious of what didn't work in the past. And really, look, my grandparents survived the 1900 storm in Galveston, one by getting up on a strand second floor, fortunately, and the other family swam through the wreckage wall to safety. So you've only got 2 choices, really. If you've got to get out of the way of a 20-foot wall of water, 28-foot wall of water. Actually, our record, I think, is in one of these is 45. And you just have to get them uphill and get them out of the way. And that may not be putting them in cars and putting them down through a river crossing, because that's what you want to avoid at all costs.
Right. And you may have to require some sort of concrete path up the bank of the river to get out of there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and part of it is, I think, just, an automated saying, there's a flash flood on the way, move to higher ground. And look, if people could have run uphill, it would have been a better choice than, waiting to be, pushed downstream. And all 3 of y'all have been enough life experience to understand that you take a cubic foot of water, which weighs 62 pounds, you put it at speed, and you take what is a stream that's flowing at a few hundred, cubic, feet per second up to 200,000, which is multiples of Niagara Falls. The only way people survive is by the grace of God.
Right.
Okay. And we just have to get them out of the way. So these are all the things we're going to be talking about. And I yesterday had to do a tweet because there was confusion on whether or not people that, had lost their cabins, and because a lot of homes and business have been damaged. And we had already passed automatic disaster exemptions for property taxes. All they have to do is just apply to their Kerr County appraisal district, and they'll get an automatic exemption of either 15%, 30, 60, or 100, depending upon how bad their property was damaged. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to do all that stuff too, because the recovery process is going to take, it always does, a lot longer than the one day that it's literally a natural disaster.
Yeah. Republican Senator Paul Bettencourt represents Texas District 7 and recently named on one of the members on the Disaster Preparedness and Flooding Committee. Senator Bettencourt, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
No, and thanks for the time.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Good luck.
Senator.
Thank you. Coming up on Hello Houston, Representative James Talarico, a Democrat from Austin representing District 50, is holding a rally right here in Houston today. And we're going to talk to him next. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
Houston Public Media is a service of the University of Houston and is supported with your gifts to the Houston Public Media Foundation. More information available online at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
80-year-old Bob Becker became the oldest person ever to complete the grueling Badwater 135 ultramarathon last week, starting in Death Valley's sweltering heat and covering 3 mountain ranges.
When you hit that finish line and you actually have reached your goal, you're half exalted and half falling apart.
How Becker ran 135 miles in just 48 hours on the next All Things Considered from NPR News.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from Houston Public Library Foundation, opening doors to discovery this summer through educational programs, books, and digital tools for everyone. More at houstonlibraryfoundation.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Representative James Talarico is a Democrat from Austin representing District 50, and he is holding a rally here in Houston today. Known for his progressive stance on education, economic equity, and bipartisan collaboration, Representative Talarico is making waves across the state. He's here to talk to us about why he's here in Houston to spread his message. Representative Talarico, welcome back to Hello Houston.
Thank you for having me back.
It is great to have you here. I'm curious, what brings you to our area?
Well, you know, the 2026 elections are coming up next year, and there is a lot of energy out there in the state among Democrats, independents, and even some Republicans who are just fed up with the extremism that they've been seeing at the state capitol and increasingly at our national capital in D.C. as well. And so what I'm doing is partnering with the state party and community organizations to host an organizing rally. And basically what that is it's not a rally for a particular candidate or a particular campaign, but it's a rally to get people registered to vote, encourage people to run for office themselves, and hopefully let people know how they can take ownership of the democratic process and make change in the upcoming election.
It's interesting, Representative Talarico, in the intro, I heard the word progressive. Would you consider yourself a progressive?
Well, you know, I've fought for a lot of progressive causes at the state capitol, from, you know, universal early childhood education, legalizing marijuana, universal health care. And, you know, some of those things I've been able to pass into law, but a lot of them don't even get hearings in committee. And I think that probably reflects a frustration among a lot of people with our broken political system, that you can't see these kinds of reforms and changes because there's so much corruption and extremism.
Well, if you're ever going to get anywhere, Representative, you got to have compromise. So how in the world do we get us back to that?
Well, you know, as a Democrat in the Texas legislature, I can't get anything done without bipartisan support. So I work with my Republican colleagues all the time to pass bills that solve problems. I wish there was more of that. I think there's too much kind of culture war fighting and political grandstanding and silliness at the state capitol, and not a lot of actual policy making and problem solving. But, you know, I've authored hundreds of bills with my Republican colleagues. You know, one in particular, I worked with a member of the Freedom Caucus, which is probably the most far right part of the Republican caucus in the House, and we worked together to pass a bill to import cheaper prescription drugs from Canada, because Canadians pay half of what Americans pay for the same prescription drugs. And so we passed that bill to lower those costs and save lives in the state of Texas. that's an example of the kind of common sense policy making we can get done when Democrats and Republicans actually work together.
We see in the news all the time the grandstanding, the fighting, the differences between the parties, the big press conferences they have. What I'm curious is when all those cameras go away and you're working in the Senate or in the House, is there common ground? Do you really work together, or does that infighting we see out in the news actually continue in?
No, my experience is that when the lights are off and the cameras are away, that there is much more room to have serious conversations about public policy. And there's a lot of common ground, a lot of agreement on what needs to be done. The issue is that we have a broken political system that incentivizes the worst behavior, both from elected officials, but also from folks in the media and even from some voters. You know, we are constantly pitted against each other in this system. You know, social media algorithms are deliberately provoking conflict instead of compromise or instead of conversation, because conflict is what gets you clicks, which gets you profit. And these platforms are making money off of these divisions in our society, and it's tearing us apart. So, you know, I think we've got to go after this broken system, both kind of social media and algorithms, but also redistricting and gerrymandering, as well as our primary system that, again, gives a lot of power to the most extreme voices in either party and leaves a lot of folks in the middle out in the cold.
You know, you were recently with former U.S. Representative Beto O'Rourke. You were with in San Antonio as well with U.S. Representative Joaquin Castro. Do you think that Texas Democrats still have equity within this state?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a pretty closely divided state. You know, I know my party hasn't won statewide office since Ann Richards back when I was in, I guess it was before I was in kindergarten. But, you know, the recent elections have been fairly close. I mean, single digit margins. And I think that shows how competitive Texas really is. And honestly, I know my party wants to turn Texas blue and Republicans want to keep Texas red. I think the best color for Texas is purple, because when elections are competitive, when either party has a chance to win, it forces politicians to stay on their toes, and it forces politicians to appeal to everyone in the state rather than just the extreme elements of their party, because they think that the general election is on lock. You know, when primaries are the only competitive election, that's when you get politicians going to their extreme right flank or left flank.
We're talking
we need our competitive generals.
We're talking to Representative James Talarico. If you'd like to get in on this conversation, 713-440-8870. Sir, I want to ask a quick question. Most people get into politics because they see something broken and they want to help fix it. Why did you get into politics? You're a young guy. What brought you there? And it's got to be diving into the deep end these days.
Well, before I was a politician, I was a public school teacher. So I taught sixth grade language arts at Rhodes Middle School on the west side of San Antonio. And I often say that teaching middle school is the best preparation for politics.
And life.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, I saw firsthand the devastating consequences of politicians who don't care about people, who underfund public schools, who don't give teachers a pay raise, who don't help students from, you know, the wrong side of town get ahead. And so I was teaching in an underfunded school where I had 45 students in one classroom.
Wow.
You know, and there weren't enough desks for all those students. So I had kids sitting on the air conditioning unit. I mean, this is the 21st century in the great state of Texas, in the United States of America, the richest country in human history. And we've got children sitting on the air conditioning unit. And so I got really mad and I decided to do something about it. And for me, that was running for office myself. I had never run before. I was 28 years old. I ran on being an educator and changing the school finance system. And, you know, we've made some progress in my 4 terms, but we've got a lot more work to do. And the attacks on public education have been relentless in the last few months. So we have a lot more work to do to help our students.
It seems like that when I hear you talk, and then we had Paul Bettencourt on right before you, and I hear these logical voices of concern for what needs to be done and hope for our state. And yet when we then get into and I know this keeps going back to what I said earlier, there becomes the fighting and the partisanism and all of that. And I'm looking at it thinking, how do you really move forward? So even talking now, redistricting is coming and the idea of more division and trying to hold on to power. So when you have this rally tonight, when you talk to voters, when you travel the state, how do you change the conversation from just we need to get out there and vote to something that can speak across the board?
Well, I get the sense that politics is not really left versus right, but it's top versus bottom. That a lot of these platforms, these cable news networks, these mega donors who flood our campaigns with so much money, they are all tearing us apart.
Mm-hmm.
They are trying to make us suspicious of our neighbors. They're trying to tear apart the bonds that hold us together as a community, and that is to their benefit. We just saw in Washington, D.C., they passed the largest transfer of wealth in American history, kicking millions of people off health care, kicking them off food programs so that they could cut taxes for billionaires. And so the people at the very top are profiting off of our divisions. They're hoping that we're looking left and right at our neighbors rather than looking up at them. Because I think once we realize that there is far more that unites all of us than divides us, then we're going to come together across partisan lines, across racial lines, across cultural lines to take power back.
But and theoretically, I follow everything you're saying, but my concern is practically these power brokers you're speaking about are not going to walk away. The heart in our legislation to stop that and to create new laws that block that doesn't seem to be there with the current makeup. So how does real change happen besides just the idea and the concept?
That's exactly why I'm in Houston today, is because change is not going to come from politicians. It's not going to come from even people in the media. It's going to come from regular Texans who are fed up with this broken system. We saw in the last legislative session that our governor forced through a private school voucher bill that will defund our neighborhood schools because a Pennsylvania billionaire named Jeff Yass paid him $12 million to do so. And so I introduced a bill this session that would have finally capped campaign contributions in the state of Texas. We have no limits on campaign contributions right now, which allows out-of-state billionaires like Jeff Yass to give unlimited amounts of money to our elected officials. That call me old-fashioned, but I think you work for the person who pays you. And right now, our governor and our other statewide elected officials are working for billionaire mega donors and not for us. And that's, again, why you're not seeing progress on all of these issues, from healthcare to education to energy and the grid. I mean, corruption is really what's holding all of this back. And there are ways that we can fix it. A campaign contribution limit is a common sense solution to some of this. And so we need to build support among Texans in all areas of the state to get this done, clean up our politics, and hopefully create a system that we can be proud of.
And you are listening to Hello Houston, and we are speaking with Representative James Talarico. We do have a call from James from the Woodlands with a question for you, Representative Talarico. James, welcome to Hello Houston. What is your comment or question?
Well, okay, two things. Okay, first, I can't tell you what an honor it is to talk to such an insightful young man. I've been following you on the internet. You are an amazing individual and a blessing, absolute blessing. Okay, I agree with what you're saying. We need purple, not red or blue. My observation at a town hall meeting with Congressman Luttrell, I'm in a red area. These people were upset that their rights were being trampled on. Do you think focusing on people's rights is also a way to gain votes because they weren't happy about the motor voter law. They weren't happy about no habeas corpus and deporting people without due process. What do you think?
Well, first of all, thank you for the kind words and for the support. I love the Constitution. I swore an oath on my first day in office to protect and defend the Constitution. And I think that's not something we can take for granted anymore. A lot of us, got complacent and thought that our rights that we have cherished weren't going to go away. And that's not what we've seen over the last few years. I mean, not only the right to due process, but also the right to control your own body, the right to read, the right to learn, the right to teach, the right to travel. I mean, all of these things are now under threat. And we have to come together as Americans across our political divides to safeguard these sacred freedoms that generations of Americans fought and died to protect.
We also have another call, this one from Colby in Katy. What's your question, Colby, or comment for Representative James Talarico?
Hi, yeah, I am a Democratic precinct chair in Harris County. And, the state party is restructuring at the moment. And the Harris County Democratic Party has limited resources. So what is something that I can do as an individual to engage my community to kind of help boost the vote turnout?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think you've already answered that question with your decision to sign up as a precinct chair. I mean, I think the office of precinct chair is the most important office in our state and in our country. It's not state representative, it's not governor, it's not senator, it's not president. It is precinct chair. Whether you're a precinct chair for the Democratic Party or the Republican Party or the Green Party or the Libertarian Party, having committed neighbors, committed citizens who are willing to educate and engage their immediate neighbors in their community is what I think eventually will upend this broken political system, because it'll finally be the mass involvement of people that we've been waiting for. So I just think that is the best thing anyone could do, is sign up to be a precinct chair, get involved with your local neighborhood association or your local community groups, register voters, talk to voters, turn out voters. That kind of on the ground, person-to-person interaction is what will break through. It's more powerful than any TV ad, any mailer, any big money play. It's that person-to-person organizing that will win.
We are talking with Democratic Texas State Representative James Talarico. Our phone number here is 713-440-8870. And we have Matthew on the line from Bel Air. Matthew, what's on your mind?
Hey, James. I'm Matthew. I'm a former Harris County Republican precinct chairman, and I wanted to let you know that if you run for governor, I will vote for you, and that I might have roles of hundreds of precinct chairmen who might volunteer for your campaign.
Well, there you go.
I will say, James, that when Greg Abbott came in, he burned down Steve Monastery's Big Tent party, and that he's pushed whole wings of the party out and made the party really smaller in terms of ideology. It's very small, and it works very much for the billionaires. If you run right now, he might be vulnerable because he doesn't have a broad base of support.
Matthew, thank you for that.
What do you say?
Representative Talarico, you have any announcements to make right now in Hello Houston?
Yeah, don't forget the little people here in
We're
the studio.
waiting.
I honestly haven't made any decisions yet about what I'm going to do in 2026. I'm really focused on this upcoming special session and also trying to get folks organized and running for office themselves at the local and state level. But I just want to thank him for that word of support. I've been kind of blown away over the last few months with the strange political bedfellows that have been created by this Republican extremism. I mean, when I was fighting that private school voucher scam, I was standing shoulder to shoulder with MAGA moms, these Republican women activists who came to the Capitol to fight back against this billionaire voucher scam. And, that gives me hope, because I don't know if I don't agree with these MAGA moms on every issue. I probably don't agree with your last caller on every issue, but we do have these core things we agree on, right? The rule of law, public education, a fair tax system. I mean, these are things that we can really build a broad-based movement, I think, on. And so I look forward to being a part of that, whether it's as a candidate or just as a supporter and as a citizen. I do think we're going to see something special in the next year and a half here in Texas.
And again, you're listening to Hello Houston. We're speaking with Representative James Talarico. If you have a question, you can join the conversation at 713-440-8870. We do have a call from Sully from Sharpstown.
Hello, Mr. Talarico. I just heard you saying a few minutes ago that, and I'll use a clock face to illustrate, the battle is often portrayed as left versus right, which indicates a battle line from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock. That is not where the real battle is being fought. The real battle line is between 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock. Those few up there against all of us down here. Props for being the first person I've heard say that. Okay?
Thank you for that
comment,
Representative Talarico.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that. And it's just what I've come to observe over my 4 terms, that a lot of the divisions in this country are actually manufactured by some very powerful, wealthy special interests, both in the media, in social media, but also in campaigns and advocacy groups. All of these special interests work together to keep us angry and divided, because our unity is a threat to their wealth and power. And my faith is very important to me, and in my religion, we're taught to love our enemies, and that's a revolutionary idea, because it means that even if you have disagreements, even if you have a difference of opinion, you're still called to love each other and see each other's humanity and come together and see all that you have in common. And I think that ancient advice from my faith tradition has a lot to teach us at this moment. We're so polarized, we're so deeply divided, and I honestly think people on both sides are sick of it, and we're ready to come together and take power back from the people who have been dividing us this whole time, which is the people at the top.
Yeah, I think listening to our callers, listening to you, and they talk often about how politics is all about timing. So I'm guessing what you're saying, though, is that we have hit a point of exhaustion on this extremism, or at least you're counting on that, and that there's time now for thoughtfulness and us being our best selves to slide in the middle. Is that what you're feeling?
I do. I mean, and this may be naive, and I just may be Pollyanna right now, but I think earnestness and sincerity and honesty, these things are going to make a comeback. I know they've been out of style for a little while now, but I do think people are hungry for something a little old-fashioned, of putting aside some of our disagreements and coming together and making progress on things we agree on.
Tell us real quick, where's your rally and how do people get involved today?
It's in Memorial. It's going to be at 6 o'clock. You can visit my website, which is jamestalarico.com, to find more information. We'd love to see you out there. And it's welcome for everybody, not just Democrats. Anybody who wants to change this political system is welcome. It's going to be at Memorial West Community Club, to be more specific.
Representative James Talarico is a Democrat from Austin representing District 50 who will be holding a rally tonight in Houston. Representative Talarico, we have so many more questions, so we're definitely going to have you back on. Thanks for joining us, especially as you head into this special session coming up.
And if you become governor, we really want you on.
Yeah.
Well, thank y'all. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Coming up, we will talk about the benefits of walking in your neighborhood with Laura Connolly of Urban Paths. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Menopause is a labor market story.
I've now got a third of the women pilots in British Airways in this group now. And from there, it spiraled into reaching out to our head of well-being.
I'm Kai Rizdal, how one pilot for British Airways changed the whole company. That's next time on Marketplace from London.
Support comes from GiveMeTheVIN.com. Purchasing vehicles in minutes with the VIN or license plate, or by bringing the vehicle to Houston area offices. Details at GiveMeTheVIN.com.
Support comes from Gulf Coast Blood, providing everything your group needs to save lives and make an impact in your community. Info on hosting a blood drive at your business, school, place of worship, or organization is at giveblood.org/hostablood-drive.
And now back to Hello Houston. Call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org to get your comment in on today's topics. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Urban Paths is a walking wellness company founded by Laura Connolly that provides people with guided walking experiences where they can experience the profound benefits of being in nature. As a certified teacher and wellness coach, Connolly leads clients and groups on these guided walks, and through her coaching helps them find their strengths and overcome their obstacles. To tell us more about Urban Paths, we're joined now by founder Laura Connolly. Laura, welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you for inviting me. Glad to be here.
So, Urban Paths, talk to me how you brought this group of people together. What inspired you to start just this walking group?
No, so it all began about 13 years ago. I launched my company as a nutrition coach, but I didn't want to meet my clients in an office. I wanted to walk with them so that they would get all the benefits of a walk at the same time they'd get coaching. And pretty quickly, I realized that it was more than just the food we eat. It's also reducing stress and anxiety, and nature and walking also brings that to the forefront. And then kind of group walks started from that. I just continue to coach one-on-one, but the group walks grew from that. So leading walks in parks around town and also in neighborhoods so that groups could also get that benefit together.
Mm-hmm. Is this like mindful walking?
Well, I
want you to define mindful because I hear it all the time.
Well, mindful, I think, just means paying attention, right?
Okay.
To where you are.
Centering yourself.
Yeah, a little bit. But it's like, I think that walking together to get all the benefits of nature, of public art, of movement and connection within community is like a really powerful hit. And these group walks are always free, sponsored by parks and different organizations so that the people who come out, it's always free for them. And I've seen it really change people's lives, my own included. So I think we downplay the benefits of something that comes free and natural, like walking around your neighborhood, right?
Oh, no, I believe in the benefits. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I get my 10,000 steps in every day.
And it doesn't even need to be 10,000.
Yeah,
Wow.
So it could be 4.
I like my 10,000 steps per the 90-year study lady.
Yeah. So some people say I can't do 10,000, so why start? But it's just getting out the door, and whether it's walking to the corner or whatever it is, any movement is good movement.
Yeah. Are your walks like a certain amount, like a mile or half a mile? Or how does that work?
So most of the walks I lead, whether they're the wellness walks or the 713 walks, are about 3 miles at a very conversational pace, we say. So walking 3 miles in about 90 minutes. So we're not fitness walking and taking a pulse. We're not doing that. We're walking and observing nature, looking at the things that catch our attention, looking at public art, looking at architecture all along the way.
And I'm assuming that makes it a more enjoyable process than simply going for a walk. You go for a walk, you did a walk.
Right.
But when you develop all of this out. But what do you think are the prolonged health benefits of not just the physical walk, but the community, the viewing, the education, all of that?
Yeah, it's very profound. And all the recent science and evidence points to that. So reduces inflammation and all these things that are going on in our body. So people think about our stress and mental health as being like a separate part of our body, but that's part of our body. So reducing that at the same time you're getting cardiovascular benefit has really major impacts to our health and warding off disease.
You know, there was a recent study, I saw this in the New York Times, about Japanese walking, which is to say you sort of do an interval. Like you'll walk fairly quickly for 1 minute and you'll slow it down for a minute. Do you do any of this, or do you believe in that?
No, I mean, I think that it's funny how things will pop up on like TikTok, these new trends.
Sure.
But it's just a matter of changing the pace sometimes. And so like if you're out for a walk with a friend or even on your own, like I'm going to walk a little faster between light poles and then slow down. It's shifting your heart rate. But I really, and that is beneficial, that cardiovascular lift you get from an interval training. But the benefit of slowing down and connecting in community, we hear the politics and the guests you had in previously, it's very stressful and we're not connecting with our neighbors very much. So breaking down those silos, and we can do that on a walk. We can speak to someone on their porch. We can get to know people outside of our own kind of.
Would you consider going to Austin and taking our state leaders on a regular walk so that they have this chance to?
We could start in Houston. I would love to walk with Mayor Whitmire.
Where are your walks? Where are your walks?
So I lead weekly walks with for Buffalo Bayou Partnership at Buffalo Bayou Park every Wednesday. So tonight at 6:30 p.m. if you want to come and join us.
Go see
every
the bats while you're at it?
Yeah.
And this is the thing, I am a long distance runner and I love to walk. I think walking is one of the most underrated exercises. And, as we look to our state right now, we are grieving about what happened, in Central Texas. And we know that there are a lot of people that are just sad. And so what would you recommend? You said tonight, Wednesday, and come with your tennis shoes. Is that all you have to bring?
Come walk and be in community, whether you're extroverted or introverted. So particularly when we're going through times of trauma, coming together for collective grieving or collective sharing is super important to our mental health. And on a walk, you can do it and you can take breaks when it becomes too it becomes too strong. Then you can look at the bird or look at a butterfly or the things along the way, a sculpture or a mural along the way, which is why I started leading the walks I call 713 walks in the 7 cultural arts districts. So it's 7 cultural arts districts, 1 city, 3 miles. So
I love that.
A few years ago, I was lucky enough to receive a grant from the mayor's office to lead walks in each of our 7. And we're really lucky in Houston. We have more than any other city in the state, designated by the state, in these 7 districts to get people out in areas that they might not typically think as being the most beautiful or the most interesting on a walk.
Wow.
A million years ago, I had an aerobics instructor, and obviously it was a million years ago if it was an aerobics instructor, and we were talking about how people weren't doing the movements right. And her answer always was, it really doesn't matter. The point is they're moving.
Absolutely.
And so for you, the point is you're walking.
You're walking,
out there.
Yeah, and connecting, which is the most important thing for me that I've found. I love Houston, but we don't connect enough with our neighbors, and that creates great amount of stress and problematic situations.
I think it's fabulous. How do people get involved?
So urbanpass.com is a website. They can see the events there, or on socials, just at Urban Pass. Like I said, all the group walks are always free, including the 713 walks. We have them coming up in the fall in Midtown, in Fifth Ward, and in the Theater District. So I hope you'll come out.
Excellent. I'll go for the theater walk.
Laura Connolly is a certified teacher, wellness coach, and founder of Urban Paths. Laura, thank you so much for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Yeah, thank you.
Coming up on Hello Houston, we'll continue diving into the top stories of the day. Stay with us for the second hour of our program.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Donations come in many forms: a monthly membership, a one-time gift, and that extra vehicle you no longer need. We take any kind of vehicle in any condition. Learn more at houstonpublicmedia.org/cars. And thank you.
89 degrees at the University of Houston. I'm Tiffany Taylor. Mostly sunny for the rest of our Wednesday. Highs in the mid-90s, lows in the mid-70s. This is your NPR station, KUHF Houston News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. It's 12 o'clock.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, we'll continue diving into today's top stories, including Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton saying his office is investigating more than 100 cases of potential non-citizens voting in 2 recent election cycles. I'm Frank Billingsley.
And I'm Ernie Manous. Memorial Hermann-Texas Medical Center is celebrating its 100th anniversary. We'll talk with the CEO of Memorial Hermann, TMC Adult Services, and the chief flight nurse for Life Flight.
And I'm Celestia Sherman. Plus, we'll also talk about the dish of the summer, hot dogs for National Hot Dog Day.
And we want to hear from you, so give us a call or a text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us on our YouTube channel. Just go to hellohouston.org and click the big orange banner.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump is telling off members of his own base who are still demanding the Justice Department publicize what it's got on the late financier and convicted sex offender, Jeffrey Epstein.
I'd rather talk about the success we have with the economy, the best we've ever had, and all of the things we've done, including in the Middle East. I mean, you see it. Instead, they want to talk about the Epstein hoax. And the sad part is it's people that are really doing the Democrats' work. They're stupid people.
Many conspiracy theorists and conservative influencers are angry that Attorney General Pam Bondi says Epstein did not maintain a client list after she and other top Trump allies had suggested otherwise. Trump made the comments during a photo op with the Crown Prince of Bahrain. Now, amid market volatility and conflict over the direction of interest rates, President Trump now says he is not planning to do anything about Fed Chair Jerome Powell. Trump has been a vocal critic of Powell over the central bank's decision not to lower interest rates now, and has said Powell, whom Trump selected in his first term, should be fired. Russia has launched a massive attack on Ukrainian cities. NPR's Polina Litvinova reports from Kyiv at least 15 people were wounded in the overnight strikes across the country.
The Ukrainian military says Russia attacked cities across Ukraine, including President Volodymyr Zelensky's hometown Kryvyi Rih in central Ukraine with a ballistic missile and 400 drones. The explosions caused massive power outages in Kryvyi Rih. Military officials also say industrial and civilian facilities were damaged in the central city of Vinnytsia and in the northeastern Kharkiv. Russia's barrage comes after President Trump announced Monday the U.S. would sell weapons to Ukraine and gave the Kremlin 50 days to make peace or face sanctions. Polina Litvinova, NPR News, Kyiv.
The Trump administration is holding back about $140 million allocated by Congress to help communities fight fentanyl and other drug overdoses. Sources inside the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention tell NPR key life-saving programs are being disrupted. Here's NPR's Brian Mann.
President Trump has made fighting fentanyl deaths a key part of his second term, as he did in his first term. But 4 CDC staff members, speaking on condition of anonymity because they fear retribution, told NPR roughly $140 million for the Overdose Data to Action program have been held back by the DOJ cost-cutting team and the Office of Management and Budget. All 4 said they fear delays will lead to the funding being cut or canceled altogether. These are lives at stake, said one CDC staffer. Trump administration officials haven't responded to NPR's request for comment.
That's NPR's Brian Mann reporting. From Washington, this is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. Texas lawmakers will take up a request from Governor Greg Abbott to rearrange voting districts in the upcoming special legislative session, which begins on Monday. Renee Cross is a political science professor at the University of Houston. She says 4 congressional seats are in the crosshairs, 3 of which are here in Houston.
The 18th, which is the seat previously held by Sheila Jackson Lee and Sylvester Turner. The 22nd, which is held by Sylvia Garcia. The 9th by Al Green. All of these are held by people of color.
She says a big reason for this is because President Trump wants to gain more seats during the midterms next year. Traditionally, Texas redraws political maps every 10 years. The last time maps were redrawn was 5 years ago. Conservative activist and real estate agent Melissa Wilson has entered the Republican primary for Fort Bend County Judge. As News 88.7's Natalie Weber reports, Wilson could face at least 3 opponents, including current Judge K.P. George.
Wilson led an unsuccessful campaign against long-standing Democratic County Commissioner Grady Prestage in 2022. Now she's entering the Republican primary for county judge. Her campaign focuses on economic development, public safety, and managing the county's budget. Wilson will face the incumbent judge, K.P. George, who recently switched from being a Democrat to a Republican. Former Sugar Land City Councilman Daniel Wong is also running in the primary, and former state lawmaker J.C. Jaton is considering a bid. 5 Democrats are also running for county judge. Both primaries are in March. From the Fort Bend County Bureau, I'm Natalie Weber, News 88.7.
The man accused of leading an attack against an ICE facility south of Dallas 2 weeks ago has been caught. 32-year-old Benjamin Song is now in custody. Police found him late yesterday afternoon at an apartment complex north of Dallas. Currently 91 degrees here on the UH campus with a high today of 95. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from Subaru. The new Forester Hybrid offers symmetrical all-wheel drive and up to 581 miles per tank. Part of the new Forester Hybrid family of SUVs. More at Subaru.com/Forester Hybrid. This is NPR.
From Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Boy,
Hump day. That's a great first hour.
We had a solid first hour. You know, we spoke with Republican Senator Paul Bettencourt, who was talking to us about the newly formed House and Senate Joint Committee that will first meet on July 23rd. And it was formed after what happened in July 4th. And it's the Disaster Preparedness and Flooding Committee. Mm-hmm. And we talked about that. And we had Representative James Talarico as well join us and talk about his rally that's coming up. So it was a jam-packed first full hour.
Yeah. And then we also learned to go for a walk. And the importance and benefits of that, which I like the idea that we kind of threw out at the end there about, I think she should go to Austin and get all of our lawmakers to go for a walk together and to start socializing in a different way. I'm all for that.
Ellen DeGeneres used to say, my grandmother walks 3 miles every day. We haven't seen her in 2 months.
Oh, my gosh. Well, it is. It's interesting because we often sit with a lot of heavy things. We work in news. We understand. We are we are all news consumers. And it is, Ernie, you brought up a very good point where when we were listening to Republican Senator Bettencourt, it was very honest and fair, and it seemed like they're going to go. This committee is, there are both Republicans and Democrat representatives on it, and they are going to find solutions. And so when we hear them and we speak to them one-on-one, there's hope. But then they get into these spaces with each other.
As Talarico was saying, too.
Talarico,
when you move away from the cameras and the silos and you're just working, what we hope is that they're all working for the common good of all of us, at least in the state of Texas, across the nation. It's the circus that surrounds it and the attention that surrounds it that makes it more difficult to get the work done of the people. And I hope that we have more people like Talarico and others coming in to to kind of guide us back to a centrist point where the real purpose of all of this is to support the people that they represent and to do what's right.
And as horrible, of course, as July 4th was, to honor those people that perished, they have to act quickly. They have to fix this. It must be fixed. Otherwise, they die in vain. Right?
And it's also one of those things, to that point about acting on this, is that right here on Hello Houston, we've had, within that first week after the devastation of July 4th, we had multiple researchers and experts who were looking at this from a law perspective, from an environmental perspective, that all said the same thing, which was, yes, extreme weather has always been there, but now we are seeing it. It's going to be here. It's going to be here more often. And after the devastation that our state has experienced, we have to be alert. We have to put the right measures in place to make sure that this never happens again.
I think, Ernie, you said we all have this "it won't happen to me" attitude.
Right.
And it can and does happen to you, and it's going to happen to more and more of us.
It doesn't happen to you until it happens to you.
Well, we have this disturbance that's trying to move into the Gulf. It's actually over land right now. National Hurricane Center is giving it a chance that it could develop into a tropical depression. It's what's pulling all the moisture into the Gulf right now. So we're actually having our driest day I think we've had in 6 weeks. It looks like we'll be dry today and tomorrow.
And yesterday was hot.
And that's the other thing, because when it's dry, it's hot. When it's humid, it's a little less hot. It's just miserable, right? Yeah. So pick your poison on that. But we're watching this. There's a chance we'll get a little bit of this, I think, especially if you are east of I-45. So if you kind of cut the Gulf Freeway up to Conroe and go east of there, it just means the closer you are to this disturbance, the more likely you will see some rain. We're not looking for severe weather, but some heavy downpours are always possible with a system like this. But it's still in the early stages until we have a circulation.
Frank, yesterday I was on my evening walk, and it had been really hot. But in the evening, around like 5 or 6 o'clock, the breeze was really nice.
The breeze is nice, and dry air, it's easy to heat up, but it's easy to cool down. Okay. Like the desert, it gets really hot in the desert, and then it gets really cold at night because it's that dry air. So the drier the air, the hotter, but the cooler.
Yeah. And, to that point, when we're looking at these things, we will continue to try to keep you as up to date, whether that is on the latest with the weather or, any type of information that we get out of our newsroom from Central Texas.
And we're always interested in what you have to say. Our phone lines are always open here. Our email, of course, is talk@hellohouston.org, where we monitor that. We're on our YouTube channel, but our phone number is 713-440-8870. And as a matter of fact, Jeff is on the line right now from Northwest Houston. Jeff, what's on your mind?
Well, I'm just wondering, with the flooding and all that, I don't hear anybody talking about don't build in a riverbed. I mean, they're putting their houses in danger. They've actually gone to make measures to take them out of the 100-year floodplain or whatever to allow them to build there, and then they're surprised when things happen. So.
Yeah, not
building. Conversation.
Not building in a riverbed is seems like a logical answer there.
And even on stilts, I don't think that would have. Obviously, they do build on stilts there,
right?
But that doesn't. When you think about the gallon, 1 gallon of water weighs 8 pounds. So try to multiply that by trillions of gallons of water and the pounds, that force coming at you, that weight of the water. There's no stilts. Even cement stilts are not going to withstand that.
And that is, to that point, talking about a house on stilts, one of the firsthand accounts that was written in an article at the Texas Monthly article about a house being completely washed away.
Sure.
We had talked about that. The house was built after the 1987 floods, and I had explained how it was built 100 yards away from the original flood area, so that they felt like they were safe. But this was just astronomical.
Well, and that was part of my point to Paul Bettencourt. Are there going to be zones where you're safe, either to get away from the river when it's flooding, or as this gentleman's asking, where am I safe to build? What the engineers can figure this out,
right?
And they may not be 100% right, but they could be close.
Well, when Senator Bettencourt did the math out of the gallons towards the speed, toward the power, you suddenly realize how immense.
It's unfathomable, which is why storm surge with a hurricane is so difficult to fathom that.
Jeff, thank you very much for that and getting us talking on that. The number 713-440-8870. Thomas from Montgomery is on the line. Thomas, what's on your mind?
Well, I think that the state should condemn as unsafe any camping or camps that are near a flood-prone river. They're incredibly unsafe. They will flood eventually. People will be killed. Nobody should be allowed to build an area in a floodplain to begin with, or if it's a dangerous floodplain. I'm a retired photojournalist from New Jersey, and I photographed floods and I photographed water rescues. Where I lived, rivers overflowed and the reservoir overflowed and inundated the land below it, and I saw that firsthand. And they did build houses on stilts in certain towns in New Jersey. I saw that. They did that in Staten Island, too, in New York.
I appreciate this point, but, we're all in a floodplain if you live in Houston. It's just like Harvey. Anyone that got 60 inches of rain from Harvey, I don't care where you are in Southeast Texas, you're going to flood. Now, 30 inches, a lot of people flooded, some didn't. You got 18, 20 inches. Some people can flood, some don't. So not all floodplains are created equal. Now, I get if you're along a river or right next to the coast, you have to take these extra precautions. But I think there are ways to enjoy our world and also stay safe. This clearly was not one of them.
Well, and
that's why we're sending committees to say, okay, how can we get both? How can we be a part of our world and stay safe from its dangers?
And I think moving forward, so many Texans, again, we're holding space for grief, but we're also looking to our elected officials to say, okay, we understand this devastation happened, and I don't want to use the word blame. We have to look forward and what are going to be the solutions. And so it's very interesting because Representative Ken King is a Republican of Canadian Texas. He will be one of the committee's chairs. I know Bettencourt mentioned the House representatives that will be. These are the Senate representatives. And then Armando Martinez, who is a Democrat from Weslaco, will serve as one of the vice chairs. And it's very interesting because when you dig into this, Representative Ken King authored House Bill 13, which would have established a grant program for counties to build new emergency communication infrastructures. This is that bill that a lot of us reported on that died, in this past legislation. And basically, it was formed, he authored it after the Panhandle fires, and he himself had a lot of his ranch burnt. And so as we look to this, we hope that there will be solutions that will come from this based on this experience, an experience that other Texans have already had.
Yeah, it's not blame. It's just saying what didn't work.
And what needs to now be put in there.
That's not blame. That's just observation and common sense.
Thomas, thank you for that call. And, it's the rub here is people keep building near the water. They build things because they want to be near the water. And that the water
60% of the world is on the water. The water is how we all...
But look at even Tornado Alley. You always see in the videos of all those homes and stuff that get blown away and they rebuild right there, and then another hurricane or tornado comes through.
Well,
it's rough.
Right. And we build squares when
that's one of my favorite things you say. Finish that thought.
Well, everything in the world is round. Everything, naturally. Maybe salt crystals are a little square, but everything. You're round, I'm round. The earth is round, the sun is round. So trees are round. I mean, there's nothing square except what we build, and we build squares constantly.
Yeah.
And the wind, you don't see square airplane wings.
Right.
Right. You have to have something that wind can flow around. But we build squares at the beach, and we build them out of wood.
Yeah.
So we don't learn.
But there are some, sorry, Ernie, but there are some sphere-looking
and they survive.
Homes in Galveston.
Look at igloos. They survived the winds up in Alaska. And the original Native Americans with teepees and wigwams, they were rounded so that wind would go around them. And there are some geodesic is the word you're looking for, geodesic homes that have been built at the coast, and they always survive these storms. And look at the Caribbean and Mexico. They build out of cement. So something comes through, The water comes in, it washes out, they hose it down, they're open for tourists.
Yes.
I mean, they know how to build it.
You know, I used to live in high school. I lived in Mexico for a year, and the only thing about that is when it's cold outside and you get out onto the floor, it's cold.
Cement block. Cement block is cold.
713-440-8870, our number for you to call in with your questions, thoughts, and concerns. But you can also text us there, 713-440-8870. And Frank, we got a text for you. It says, Frank, has the Sahara dust kept the hurricanes away from our area? And that came from Yaya.
Yes.
Yes.
And it's going to keep it. There may be these flare-ups like Chantal and this flare-up we're watching maybe in the Gulf. But these are minor, but these big systems that we look for, these category 2, 3, 4, 5 systems, that the dust does inhibit that, absolutely.
Yeah.
And should last through maybe mid to even late August.
Yeah. Well, it'll be
lucky.
good. Well, thank God we have you here. You can keep us. You can keep us informed. Yesterday on the show, this is usually where we're in our headlines, but yesterday on the show, we talked a lot about what's going on with the Epstein files and whether or not they should be released and shouldn't be released and what's going on now. According to CNN, Trump has called those Republicans and pro-Trumpers fighting with him to release the Epstein files. Well, he's calling them weaklings.
And that includes Mike Johnson. Because Mike Johnson is saying that Trump needs to release the files, which, when Johnson comes out on that, and right-wing podcaster Benny Johnson wants transparency. I don't know.
Yesterday, I made the comment about how a podcaster had turned and said, no, I'm done talking about it. Well, then after there was an uproar about that, he has come back out to say he meant he was done talking about it in that episode. And he's going to stick with it. They're going all over the place because they're trying to read what the president wants and trying to read what their constituents wants. And Celeste is trying to read what she wants to read right now.
Well, but there's more to it. So the president said that they're weaklings who are falling prey to Democratic, and he used an explicit word. So they're not just weaklings; they are weaklings who are falling prey.
Aren't the files
to Democratic?
Aren't the files against Democrats? Isn't that what we heard forever? That it was Democrats that were in the Epstein files?
But I think he goes one step further. That's important, concluding that he no longer wants their support. So that, to me, is very interesting.
We have waited for a long time, those of us that watch political parties and how they evolve and what happens, and I consider myself one of them. I often say I'm much more interested in the race and what plays out than actually those elected, because that's where my excitement lies. And it's been waiting to see what would be the break, because in any strong faction, something comes along that eventually cracks it. And is this the crack that's going to happen in the Trump support? Are there going to be a separation now where people are like, you know what, our contingency was built on this belief in one thing, and now our leader is going a different direction and doesn't want this transparency. Now, is that going to make a crack in it? It's going to be fascinating.
He's between a rock and a hard place.
I think that it'll make a crack in not necessarily for the Republican Party, as in that this is going to sway voters to vote differently. Mm-hmm. I think the crack will become more Trump-specific supporters, because there are some Republicans who say, I am loyal to the party and I don't necessarily love the way the president goes about things. However, I support him because he is the head of our party. Mm-hmm. That's where I think there will be cracks. But I don't think this will necessarily sway people to vote differently.
I'll throw a little caveat in here. It's so early in his cycle that will people remember this 18 months from now? When they go to vote in the midterms, will they remember this? And I think that's part of what they hope for. And that's why they come out of the gate and do so much initially, because then they have time to. Also, when you look at the big, beautiful bill, all the stuff that Democrats warn of the negatives in that bill really don't kick in until after 2 years, so that they can make it to the midterms before their perceived pain of that bill is felt. So there's a lot of playing out and scheduling, and they know what they're doing. There's a lot of planning.
Well, more Republicans, according to CNN. Ralph Norman of South Carolina voted with Democrats to show everybody the files, the Epstein files. And GOP Rep Chip Roy also told CNN he wants more transparency from the Justice Department on this case. So more Republicans, to your point.
He said he wants it. He said he wants it, but then he voted against it. So he's playing both sides
That's
because
that's
I think
the games.
The Texas two-step.
I think they're seeing that this is very important. This is a priority to the people that vote for them, and so they need to.
And just to
vote for
clarify
something.
too, they didn't vote for or against the release of it. They voted for or against to move to have the vote for or against. Yeah, it's like
I know, but it is interesting. I mean, you run on those files, and you've seen the timeline. Obama and Biden had nothing to do with Epstein. Epstein all happened under the Trump administration, part one. Now, all that you look at the timing, it was all 2019. It was not Biden. It was not Obama. It was not FBI Director Comey. It was Trump. And under Trump, he's got to do something with this, one way or another.
There is definitely there. We will continue to monitor and see what happens. And just for everybody, Elmo is okay.
Almost okay. Good. If you have thoughts on any of these topics, give us a call, 713-440-8870.
Coming up on Hello Houston, Memorial Hermann-Texas Medical Center is celebrating its 100th anniversary. And we'll talk with the CEO of Memorial Hermann TMC Adult Services, Jason Glover, and Program Director and Chief Flight Nurse for Life Flight, Rudy Cabrera. This is News 88.7.
You can't tackle life's big challenges if you let the little ones get you down. That's why Houston Matters devotes the first Monday of each month to a sort of group moan session we call Houstonian Pet Peeves. It's a communal, cathartic experience, but not everyone can join us live at 9 a.m., and not every peeve occurs to you right then and there. That's okay. We welcome your gripes about life in Houston anytime at talk@houstonmatters.org.
Tonight on Houston Public Media TV 8, at 7, an encore episode of Walking with Dinosaurs. Then at 8, the second season of Human Footprint explores how the things we do reveal who we are. Tonight on TV 8, or stream on the PBS app.
It's one thing to love public radio, but it's a special thing to support it. Consider this. If you've got a car you don't need anymore, or you've got one that's simply too expensive to repair, you can arrange to donate it to Houston Public Media. We take any kind of vehicle in any condition. It's easy for you, pickup is free, and it could be worth hundreds of dollars in support. Visit houstonpublicmedia.org/cars to learn more. And thanks.
This week in This American Life, an Iowa housewife with muscular dystrophy who gets around on a motorized scooter sees a photo of an Olympic sprinter and becomes convinced that they share the same genetic anomaly, except it makes one of them weak and one of them strong.
This is my kryptonite, but it's her rocket fuel.
Nobody believes her. What happens when you see something no one else sees? This week.
Support comes from the Dan L. Duncan Comprehensive Cancer Center at Baylor St. Luke's Medical Center, offering comprehensive cancer care that is compassionate, personalized, and driven by clinical research. More at stlukeshealth.org/cancer.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
All right, I love this next story. You know, I had my
Yes.
prostate procedure done at Memorial Hermann, so the great hospital staff. Yeah, they give you good drugs before they put you under. You know, it's amazing. 100 years Memorial Hermann has been here. They all began July 1st, 1925, opened its doors. The founding institution would really grow into what we know is one of the, if not the best, certainly one of the top medical centers in the world. From receiving the nation's first shipment of penicillin in 1943 to launching the first Life Flights, Houston's first air ambulance in 1976, Memorial Hermann has played a vital role in shaping healthcare in Houston and beyond. And we're honored today to have Jason Glover, CEO of Memorial Hermann TMC Adult Services, and Rudy Cabrera, Program Director and Chief Flight Nurse for Life Flight. We've all seen Life Flight. I don't know.
Yeah, we were just
Do you have
talking
any
about that.
personal experience with Life Flight?
No, thank
Thank goodness. But I mean, it saves lives every day. Do you keep up, Rudy? Do you keep up with that? How many lives have you, or how many people have you transported?
In my
Go a little closer to the mic. Thanks.
Yeah. So in my tenure there, being there for 18 years and flying, it's hard to keep up with so many flights because we do over 4,000 flights a year.
Oh, wow.
So the impact you make on patients in the first contact is incredible, and the rewards of being able to help someone in need at that time, whether you're landing for a automobile accident, heart attack, stroke, the number of things is always different. The ones that will touch base the most, I think, is when you are picking up children,
right?
Because they are the vulnerable and I guess in some terms helpless, because sometimes in the accidents they're involved in.
Yeah, I've been in a news helicopter or two. You probably have as well. You can't just land anywhere. How does Life Flight negotiate? Okay, we're going to help these people in this place, and you get there and you land. How do you do that?
So that's a very good question, because when I started flying, when you drive to a intersection, you see all the 4 stops and you see the wires. Typically, that's how we land, and we require a 60 by 60 square area, or we could do 100. So the good thing is that we have a lot of safety features in that we get called to a scene and we circle it and kind of decide, is that a safe landing zone? Is it secure? Are there a lot of flying objects? Are there people running across the way? And once we secure it and identify that it is secure and communicate with EMS and law enforcement and fire, then they secure that area and we land.
Now, Jason, as the CEO of Memorial Hermann TMC Adult Services, what does this mean to you and the organization to be able to celebrate this type of milestone?
Yeah, it's an amazing time, right? So think back 1925. If you see a picture, it's a little building with trees that are surrounding it. And now you see the Texas Medical Center today, largest medical center in the world, 8th largest business district. And to be kind of the cornerstone of that, and to receive from George Hermann, right, a philanthropist at the time that really established that hospital to take care of the Houston community. And we've continued that on since 1925. So we opened up with 100 beds. Wow. We saw, I think, 500 patients that first year, had about 100 physicians on staff. And now this year, right, we have over 1,200 beds. We have about 2,000 physicians. We took care of close to 45,000 patients in an inpatient status this last year. So to see the impact that this little hospital surrounded by trees has now had on the medical community, not only from care but also research and education, as we partner with McGovern Medical School at UT Health Houston. I mean, it's just an awesome milestone to celebrate.
I would imagine you've had to grow, obviously, as the city's grown. So you've kind of gone through your own organizational growing pains and also successes as you hit this milestone.
Oh, absolutely, right? So, we added buildings in the 1940s, right, when we added the Robertson Pavilion. And then in the 70s, we added our Jones building. And then in 2021, we added our Seraphim building. And then currently, we're actually going through a massive expansion, so about a $250 million expansion to build out the rest of Seraphim so that, the Houston community continues to grow. And we want to be there and honor that mission of supporting the community. And so it's been amazing to grow with the community and to take care of Houstonians and patients worldwide as they've come to us.
And we're here to honor that success. There have been a lot of articles already about these cutbacks from the government affecting the medical community, and especially the Texas Medical Center. Are you guys up against some of that with Life Flight or just operating the hospital system?
Yeah, I mean, we have to pay attention to it, right? I mean, it's in the big, beautiful bill, right? There's a lot of targets here at healthcare, and so we have to pay attention, right, to the Medicaid cuts and the regulatory cuts and the NHA funding. And so, like any good organization, right, we're building contingency plans around that. But at the end of the day, we're here to take care of patients, right, and to take people that can't be taken care of anywhere else. And that's, we're the only level 1 trauma center here in Houston that takes care of both adult and pediatric patients. And we really honor Red Duke's legacy at that Red Duke Trauma Institute. And we actually, the American College of Surgeons, they survey us every year, and they came to us and they said, this is the Disneyland of trauma.
Such as it is.
Right, which is amazing. But there's people in Houston that are walking around because of the work that's been done at the Level 1 Trauma Center at Memorial Hermann-Texas Medical Center. So, we'll respond to whatever happens with regulatory and operational things. But at the end of the day, we've been taking care of patients for 100 years, and we want to continue to take care of patients for many, many more years.
Talk to me a little bit about beyond the fact of just your hospital, and we talk about the whole medical center, the benefit of having multiple hospitals working together in today's day and age. I think a lot of folks would assume, well, you know, we have connectivity in this world. What's the benefit of being located together like this?
Yeah, well, I think it helps raise the bar for all of us, right? It helps because there's competition, right?
So you're in competition with each
we're in
other?
competition, but we're also in collaboration, right? And we're able to call colleagues down the street and kind of get ideas of what they're doing, or when there's research projects, we're able to tap into a larger sample base. Or with the TMC innovation, there's life science companies that are coming there. And so I think there's an element that just keeps raising the bar. And so as we look at that from clinical care or from research or from education, we're able to continue to help each other, but also push each other to really provide the best care possible.
You mentioned Red Duke. I knew Red Duke. You knew Red Duke,
Yes,
didn't you,
sir.
Rudy?
Mhm.
A lot
I
of
did.
people don't know he was at Parkland Memorial when JFK was brought in after being assassinated.
That is correct. He was doing his time in Dallas as a physician, and he was actually on that day when JFK came in. His lead physician called him down to the ER because they had the president and Connally coming in that were shot, and he was able actually to take care of Mr. Connally and survived his wounds. Of course, JFK perished from a lethal wound, but he was very, very well involved and had many stories that he always told me he could not talk about.
Yes, and that was one of them. He told me that too.
He said there could possibly be a conspiracy, but I can't talk about it, Rudy. But I have my thoughts.
But he loved, we're not going to go down that road.
No, right.
But
Frank's going to take off his tinfoil hat.
No, he told me the same thing. He told me the same thing.
That was
because we were together at ABC 13. You know, that's where he filmed his stuff. So he really loved ER work. I mean, that was his absolute passion.
Yeah.
Is that yours?
Yeah. So Dr. Duke's, I guess, him being a trauma surgeon and coming to the Hermann Institution to build the trauma service line, and then that point, he got involved in developing Life Flight. My passion was always emergency room and ICU. So critical care would be my main passion, as well as his. And having the ability to work side by side with him before he perished was incredible. Just a man that would speak to anyone. He'd walk in the elevator, he'd talk to you, very knowledgeable about a lot of things, but a very caring physician. I can recall him telling me one of the stories, and he never looked at taking full accreditation. So he'd be in the OR with his team, and he would ask the question, who's the most important person in that room? And of course, everybody's astounded by Dr. Duke being there, and they would say, well, Dr. Duke, you are. And he would say, no, that's wrong. It's the patient. So his love for patient care and medicine, can speak its own. His history with Memorial Hermann and his history throughout the Houston area as a surgeon, as a person, speaker. He's just well known, very versatile.
Something really cool about Dr. Duke, because after 100 years, right, you're built off the shoulders of giants. And so when we built the Seraphim Tower, if you go into any of our emergency rooms, he wore cowboy boots, right, throughout the hospital. And so there's a silhouette of boots. And so whoever the medical team member that is in charge of whatever the situation is, that's the symbol for them to stand in the red boots to direct whatever care happens.
Now, those are the boots you're going to have to fill right now.
Right, it's the tribute to him, so it's cool.
Now, Rudy, as the chief flight nurse, you have seen some of the worst that possibly can come in a traumatic situation and crisis. When you are in that moment, how do you ground yourself to know how to make the right decision in those moments?
So it's a very unique position to fly as a flight nurse, much different from the hospital. You're making decisions based on your training, experience, knowledge. And as you go to a scene, you kind of have an idea what you're coming to, but it may be a total difference when you land. And it's a moment where you set your your pathway, you know what you have to do, you take care of the situation, and then you just move on. Being flight nurses, you got to be versatile, medical, trauma, cardiac, pediatrics, all those different realms, obstetrics. So you have a vast majority of training in all these different disciplines to use your
So
knowledge.
when you get someone back to the hospital, what happens there? Is there an ER on the top floor?
So when we arrive, currently when we arrive on our Seraphim building, we have a helipad that supports 4 aircrafts. We land, and we have an elevator that we specifically use to take us down to the ER. So we land, and within a minute and a half, we're down in the emergency room, in the trauma room, where the trauma team or medical team are taking care of the patient.
And they know what's coming.
And they know what's coming because we've given them report of what we have. We give them some vital signs to let them know how the patient is and what to expect.
And Jason, I would imagine in your role, you're focusing also on the people that are supporting the patients. How do you support nurses and doctors and researchers there within Memorial Hermann in your area?
Yeah, absolutely. So I say we're a city of 10,000. So it takes about 10,000 people to run just the Memorial Hermann-Texas Medical Center campus. And so my goal is that, we're creating world-class experiences for all of the individuals that come to us, right? We're in Houston. They pass a lot of hospitals, and so they choose to be at the TMC. So to create an environment that's safe, to create an environment where they can accomplish their professional goals, create an environment where they can have the resources to do what they need to do is meaningful. And, an example of that is we had PCT, so these are patient care techs that sit with patients, and we partnered with Houston Community College and came up with a program while they're on the job, they become LVNs, and then that allows them to get on the path to become RNs. And so there's different avenues for whoever works here, but ultimately, when you're passing so many places to come, you want it to be just a world-class experience from the moment you enter in the Texas Medical Center and have them work there, and then they can give their best selves to taking care of Houston.
Jason, looking back at the past 100 years, how is that forming and changing what your goal is for the next 100 years?
That's a great question.
Go home and write a book report.
Yeah. We may be here all afternoon.
We want that here on our desk by tomorrow.
What are the biggest challenges facing your industry right now? And not the tariffs and all that.
Yeah,
but
no,
just
absolutely.
generally.
Right. No, so I think one thing we have in Houston, right, is our community continues to grow, and so keeping up with the capacity to be able to take care of the community is really important. The pandemic, right, that shifted a lot of people's, desire to be in healthcare, and so it's reigniting kind of the mission around healthcare and coming up with different avenues to recruit, new, young, and bright, both clinicians, support teams, physicians, so that they can be a part of growing what's the next iteration of healthcare. If we were still doing life flight and trauma like we did in 1925, right, we wouldn't be saving people like we are.
Yeah.
And that's why I say we have to keep learning, right? And that's the cool thing about our partnership with the McGovern Medical School at UT Health Houston is we're an academic medical center, which inherently, right, we have trainees and we're teaching and we're asking questions, and that's allowing us to think through how can we deliver medicine better, more efficiently, more effectively, so that we can, get people back to live the life they have, but also to impact generations that they have to come.
Yeah, that makes it great because having the school there provides evidence-based practice. So in real time, as we learn how to do things better, we're already instituting those things. And other facilities are catching on going, oh, well, we have a practicing hospital associated with the school, and we're doing evidence-based practice research, so that all builds on to how we progress in the future.
You talk about Life Flight, you talk about Red Duke, great marketing things to hook onto. So from a marketing point of view moving forward, you mentioned the pandemic, and we went through a very difficult time where medical science and ingenuity helped stop this pandemic in record time. And yet the backlash from public opinion of all of that seemed to be distrust in medicine and all of that. As a marketing look moving forward, how do you get people back into realizing this is what saved you and will save you in the future?
Yeah. So, we went through, right, kind of heroes to villains and all across that spectrum throughout the pandemic. I think to Rudy's point, right, as we show and use fact, and we also share the stories, right? There's so many patient stories where they've been impacted by advances in medicine or advances in research. And those patient stories, they hit us all, in our hearts, right? And sometimes it's not always the head, but it's the heart. And so I think as we share those patient stories and the impact that we can have, the impact of how advanced medicine can change lives, that comes back to why we all got into healthcare, and that's to serve people. Is a big part of it.
And are there any cool new technologies that you guys are seeing that are really going to change the way we look at medicine? I mean, we just on Hello Houston,
Gold nanoparticles.
We also spoke to a doctor who just recently did the first robotic open heart surgery.
Yeah, without all the scars.
Without the scarring and the trauma to the body. Is there anything that y'all can talk to us about that's kind of new and interesting?
Well, on the medical side of Life Flight, we do ultrasonography. We give over 350 units of blood a year.
Wow.
Our crews are trained in administering a drug that causes a clot to dissolve in the event we arrive and a patient's having a heart attack. We have a helipad, the OR process, where we land. The medical team transports the patient, identifies that the patient needs a immediate surgery. We bypass the ER. We cut 30 minutes off of that and head to the OR, which in then turn allows the physician to make their first cut within 8 to 9 minutes.
Wow.
So that time that we save in doing that and instituting the care of the flight crew, the hospital, and all the entities and disciplines involved to make that happen is quite extraordinary. And being able to do that to provide life-saving measures is far and beyond of what we expected.
Rudy, thank you for the work that you do. I just
Oh,
want to
thank
say
you very
that.
much. Yeah, thank you.
I hope I never need you.
I know.
Really quickly before we run
Yeah.
out of time, Houston TX44 on YouTube wrote, "My dad went to undergraduate school with Dr. Duke and was his vet. They would go hunting together, and it was a lifelong friendship." Awesome. So Houston TX44, if he told you anything that his dad found out about JFK, let us know. We want to know about that.
Jason Glover is the CEO of Memorial Hermann TMC Adult Services, and Rudy Cabrera is the program director and chief flight nurse for Life Flight. Jason and Rudy, both, thank you so much for joining us today.
And congratulations.
And congratulations.
Thank you for having us.
Coming up, we're going to talk about the dish of the summer. You ready for it?
There's only one.
We're going from health to hot dogs?
Hot
Who
dogs.
planned this?
Stay with us as Hello Houston continues for hot dogs.
In his rescission's request to Congress last month, President Trump asked legislators to cancel the $900 million budgeted for PEPFAR, the HIV/AIDS treatment program. The Senate has until Friday to make a decision. Even if they preserve it, this is just the latest in a series of attempts to cut funding for HIV prevention and treatment at home and abroad. The future of the fight against HIV and AIDS. That's next time on 1A.
What Project Esther has done is take a real concern about anti-Semitism and then figured out a way to take that concern and achieve many other goals that Heritage has. And anti-Semitism is being used as a tool here by the Trump administration to demonize an entire movement.
I'm Rachel Abrams. That's Today on the Daily from the New York Times.
Houston Public Media is rooted in our community. We show up at school board meetings, city council votes, and neighborhood events.
That's how you stay informed about what's happening around you through deep local reporting that brings clarity and insight.
Your support powers this public service, so Greater Houston stays informed, connected, and safe.
Support local journalism right now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Houston Public Media brings to you PBS World. Experience the personal connection behind the headlines with programming devoted to telling stories that humanize complex issues. PBS World on TV 8.6 and online at houstonpublicmedia.org. Support comes from Holocaust Museum Houston, featuring Unveiled from the Vault, showcasing never-before-seen artifacts from the museum's collection. Viewing begins with opening reception on July 24th. Details at hmh.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. To share your thoughts on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Today is National Hot Dog Day, a day to celebrate one of America's most popular and widely consumed foods. If you're a fan of hot dogs, you're likely familiar with Portillo's, a Chicago-style street food restaurant chain known primarily for their famous Italian beefs, cake shakes, and of course their Chicago-style hot dogs. While the restaurant chain is undoubtedly popular in the Windy City, last year they made their debut in the Bayou City and now have 3 Houston area locations with a 4th location on the way in Humble. To tell us more about this, we're joined by Trey Boone, which, Trey, you are very popular. Our YouTube comments are going nuts. They're saying Trey is the GOAT of Portillo's. So welcome, Trey. There you go. Your mic is on.
There you go.
So National Hot Dog Day. Talk to us a little bit about the hot dog.
Oh, yeah. Chicago-style hot dog is obviously a Chicago staple, but, so is Portillo's. So we are excited to, for one, be here in Houston as well as celebrate National Hot Dog Week with Houston. So right now we have a promotion going on with our $1 hot dog. So if you go to Portillo's, you get a $1 hot dog.
Okay,
Nice.
why when you buy a hot dog out, does it always taste so much better than if you make one at home? What's the secret?
Ours is we do what we call dragging it through the garden, right? So that's where you get all your condiments and everything right on top of that hot dog. And our hot dog is it's Vienna beef hot dog. So there's so much flavor inside that dog, and you put all of those things together and you get the perfect Chicago-style hot dog.
But what's a Vienna beef compared to just a beef hot dog?
It goes back to that Chicago staple where, you have their special blend of spices that go inside those hot dogs. And we have a snap to our dog. So if you ever had a Portillo's hot dog, you bite into it, there's a nice snap that comes with it. And that's the staple.
I'm doing that right now.
Well, and Ernie, just so you know, Ernie has his own hot dog machine. They're
And
one of those
he
things
rolls
that rolls.
it
So
on here.
he makes hot dogs.
Well, I
which
don't
are
make
really
hot
good.
dogs, I heat them up.
And of course,
Okay.
it is lunchtime, and you can join the conversation at 713-440-8870.
But I also, I know it's hot dog day, and we're going to get back to the hot dogs in one second, but I'm a mad fan of Italian beef sandwiches. And Portillo's has them. It's hard to find them in our area. A few other places are having them now. I try and make them at home myself. The secret, I think, is the jardiniere, the hot, spicy jardiniere.
Definitely.
You guys have, I guess my bigger question is the reaction to people in this marketplace of an Italian beef. It's not a French dip. It's not a roast beef sandwich. Do they know what they're getting, and what's the reaction?
Oh, no. So in Chicago, we like to dip our sandwiches, right? So we put it in that gravy, and you get a nice, juicy sandwich from there. And here, what we learned is that they don't really like them dipped, right? So they get theirs their certain type of way. And
We like to dip our tacos.
Oh, yeah.
Well, congratulations. I'm eating this one just plain, right?
Yeah.
And it's really good.
Oh, yeah.
Just plain. I mean, I'm the lucky dog guy on Bourbon Street at 2 a.m. What do you want on that hot dog, mister? I'm like, everything you've got. I don't even know what they put on it, but I eat everything. But this plain, if you could make a plain hot dog taste this good, you have a secret.
Oh, yeah.
You have a
So
secret.
when I was 12 years old, I read the packaging of a hot dog, and I didn't eat one for a very, very long time. Why do you think hot dogs have gotten kind of a bad rap about how they're made?
Because of people like you.
No, yeah. Tell us about that.
Well, I think it goes back to what they actually are expecting from that hot dog. And, a Portillo's hot dog is a lot different, right? You got all of those spices and flavors that come together that make it a lot better than any other hot dog. So you have your normal ones that you go to the store and buy, and then you got Portillo's hot dog, which just makes your day a lot better.
Our number here is 713-440-8870. Tell us, who is your favorite hot dog? What's on your favorite hot dog? What kind of toppings do you like? And your relationship with the hot dog. Share that all with us as we celebrate National Hot Dog Day right here. I do have to say, coming from Chicago, have I mentioned that enough times yet today? We have the Chicago dog, where we put a pickle on it and we put celery salt and all this other stuff that people down here don't seem to like to do. What's the most common dressings for hot dogs for you folks?
We get a thing, and only in Texas, right, where they want to put ketchup on the hot dog, and you don't put ketchup on our hot dogs. We don't put ketchup on our hot dogs.
Okay, I was in Chicago, and when we went to this restaurant to get a Chicago dog, and they had had signs that said, "Do not ask for ketchup." And
Really?
yes, do not ask for ketchup.
What about chili? I bet you don't have chili.
We do have a chili hot dog as well, too.
Not in Chicago.
See, I don't think I'm going to eat a hot dog live on air. I'm going to.
Come on. I've made a
You're gonna love
reputation
it. You're
eating
gonna
food
love
on
I
air.
love it.
Oh, yeah.
So what's the most common thing people want on a hot dog?
Well, you get
Mustard?
mustard is the best way to eat a hot dog. You throw some mustard on it. Our Chicago style hot dog comes with mustard, relish, onions, tomatoes, celery salt, pickle, and sport peppers. And if you get it like that, you just get that combination of flavors that just goes exactly how it's supposed to go. We do get a lot of people who are like, "Can I get some sauerkraut on it?" Like, no.
No.
Eat
You've
the
come to the
Chicago
wrong
style
place.
hot dog. Eat a Chicago style.
How close are you to a Michelin star?
Depends on who you
happen.
ask.
It could happen.
It definitely can. We just got to be really consistent, right? When everyone comes in, if they want a Portillo's hot dog, we give them a Portillo's hot
There's
dog.
a lot
Slinga
of
just said no ketchup in.
no ketchup.
No ketchup. All right. Slinga.
There is growth in the fast food industry in Texas, and especially in our area. So what do you think it is about the Houston area? I mean, we're known for our restaurants. We have so many restaurants, but we're very attractive to growing chains. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think there's a lot of existing factors. Like, people want to move to Texas, right? They also want to move to Houston, and Chicago has Portillo's as a staple. You know, Chicagoans move to Houston. Portillo's goes to Houston,
So you
right?
follow.
That's right.
There you go. Yeah.
Where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Gary, Indiana, so it's about 20 minutes
Gary.
outside of Chicago.
How long have you been in the Katy area, in this area?
I've been here for about a year and a couple months. I like it.
And what do you put on your hot dog?
Yeah,
and
what
be
do you put
honest?
on your hot
When
dog?
you're home alone, no
we
one's
might
watching.
have video, so don't lie to us.
If I say I put ketchup, I got to take my symbol off.
Oh, right.
I don't put ketchup on my hot dogs, but I do love it the way that we make it. You know, I do take some of the things off, like the pickles and things, but I like my hot dogs with mustard, relish, and sport peppers. It adds a nice little kick to that hot dog, and it makes it better.
All right, there's another weird thing I think a lot of people think you have that nobody else has. And if you want a milkshake, the way to get it at Portillo's is, what do you put in your milkshake?
You got to put a slice of cake in that milkshake. You got to put a slice of cake. Oh, yeah. It's a game changer right there.
A whole slice.
So if you get a large, you get a whole one. And if you get a small, you get a half. But you taste the cake in every drink that you have.
And we do have an off-air comment that says, Jacob from Katy says, Trey, you are an inspiration to Portillo's. What do you think makes it so popular?
I think it's the experience that Portillo's tries to create. It's a lot different from other restaurant chains. You know, you go in and you got the music playing and you smell the Italian beef the minute you walk in. Then you get to the register, you got a cashier who's looking forward to taking your order, and a bunch of team members back there who are trying to make sure you guys have a great experience every time.
Is Portillo's the only fast food you've worked in, or ready food?
Yeah, I've worked in Portillo's is more fast casual, right? So we don't hold anything and wait until you come and get it. But I have worked at places like Burger King and McAllister's Deli as well.
Mm-hmm. And so, you know, we just recently had the Nathan's Hot Dog Contest.
Wow.
And how many hot dogs do you eat in one sitting?
I'll probably give you a good 2 hot dogs.
Oh, okay. I was thinking maybe 4 or 5, but
oh, no. I got to be really hungry for 4 or 5.
Yep.
Okay, so
really
as
good.
Celeste mentioned, I have a hot dog roller, so I look like my own little 7-Eleven at home. I have a steamer.
There you go.
You can also put them in the oven. You can do a whole lot of different things with hot dogs. For the home cook, how do you recommend they make a hot dog?
Well, the one thing that doesn't happen at home is steaming the bun, right? Getting that bun ready for that hot dog to go on it. And if you steam that bun, it's a game
It's
changer.
going to lift the whole thing?
Oh, yeah, it lifts the whole
I
thing.
think my mom boiled hot dogs when I was a
Steam
kid.
the
That's
bun.
how we had them.
There you go.
Yeah,
My dad and I would eat them out of the refrigerator cold.
Oh, my gosh.
Raw and cold.
Because
Really?
they are cooked. Hot dogs are
Yeah.
cooked.
My dad, Harmon, loves a good hot dog.
Yeah.
Everybody loves a good hot dog. It's like baseball in the American way.
I've got
There
it.
you go.
Okay,
Yeah.
so hear me out. I'm not a huge hot dog fan. Nobody hit me here. But what else? If I'm going into what else can I get?
We have a huge menu. We have burgers and chicken sandwiches and
okay.
salads as well, too. But another thing that's super famous is our Italian beef sandwich, like we were talking about earlier. But that guy right there is a lot of the reasons why our lines get long at Portillo's.
Well, hadn't the bear, that show of the bear at set in Chicago, hadn't that kind of brought an interest
Italian
back
beef.
and stuff like this and going for that Michelin star at the hot dog place?
Yeah, I think that show actually shows a lot of how it looks like inside of a Portillo's. You know, it's a controlled chaos. There's so many things going on, but situation under control.
Do you call each other chef? Hey, chef. Hey, chef.
Only
Hey, chef.
when the emotions are high.
Okay, what do you drink other than a shake with a hot dog?
Most people like to wash it down with a nice Coke, but I'm a Dr. Pepper type of guy, right?
Oh, so you were
Dr.
meant to
Pepper
be in
there.
Texas.
Oh, yeah.
You were
Oh,
meant
yeah.
to be in
Meant to come here.
Texas.
Yeah.
You even have a vegan hot dog, somebody said?
Oh yeah, we have a garden dog option, and it tastes just like a Chicago-style hot dog. And we cook that one on the grill and heat it up, and it tastes like a hot dog.
How far away is Portillo's from where I'm sitting?
The one that I came from is about 30 minutes.
Oh, no.
Well,
yeah.
everybody,
Oh, yeah.
get out a pack of hot dogs. Enjoy
Trey
a hot dog
Boone.
today on Hot Dog
National
Day.
Hot Dog Day. The Trey Boone is the general manager of Portillo's. And Katie, Trey, thanks for joining us and bringing us all the yummy food.
Look at that cake.
And that brings us to the end of our show. We want to thank you for listening, chatting, engaging, and sharing your thoughts right here on Hello Houston. We will be back tomorrow with more conversation. We're going to learn about a pair of UH archaeologists who recently discovered Mayan ruins. This is News 88.7.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altide, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Houston Public Media, in partnership with Texas Southern University, brings to you The Vibe, R&B, hip-hop, and neo-soul music